We're about to get pigs. What were they like? What's the temperament like?
Easy handling. Pigs are probably the funnest thing that we've had on the farm. They just have a nice enough temperament because they get handled every day.
How long did y'all raise them before process?
It was exactly 6 months. The biggest one ended up hanging right at 200 pounds. Some people want to raise them a little bit bigger. I think there's a point there where you get a diminishing return. You just keep pouring the feed to them and they may not be converting it to protein.
We're about to get pigs next week. We were kind of talking before we started recording. So I've got, I don't know what they are. I think they're like Kune mutts. Yours are Kunis, right?
No, they're, you're getting it from John, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a Berkshire with a small influence of IPP. So mostly a Berkshire pig.
That's what I'm getting from him?
That's the one. If they came out of the same litter or same breeding stock, that's what I got from him earlier this year.
What were they like? What's the temperament like?
Easy handling.
Easy handling?
Yeah, we didn't have any problems with them. We actually saved, so we bought 5 from him. We saved 3 of the females so we could start our breeding side of things. And the pigs are probably the funnest thing that we've had on the farm. They have a personality. They get to where they want to see you. It kind of makes them hard to process at some point, but you just realize that, everybody's has a purpose in life. So, but they have enough personality that my kids enjoy them. They'll get in there and they love on them and not wrestle around with them, but they're just have a nice enough temperament because they get handled every day. We're in there every day. They're not freaked out when we show up. So, yeah, they're pretty easy to raise.
How long did y'all raise them before process? Like 6 months or so?
Yeah, we had them, I think, it was exactly 6 months we had them on our farm. The biggest one ended up hanging at, gosh, I didn't look it up, so I'm trying to go back into my memory. I think it's had a hanging weight of about right at 200 pounds. So, some people want to raise them a little bit bigger. I think there's a point there where you get a diminishing return. You just keep pouring the feed to them and they may not be converting it to protein like you hope. So you just, pivot and process and move on.
And as far as raising that, you said it was Berkshire, and what was the other cross?
Some IPP influence. The IPP is Idaho pasture pig. That's more of a grazing pig, but it's from what I could tell, it's just slight enough that they get a little bit of that speckled coloring.
Gotcha.
So
if you've seen our place, like I don't have just a ton of land, so I'm going to pretty much be fencing off that entire lower field. What would you do in that scenario? Like, I ideally would be rotating them, but if I'm putting 4 in that lower field and supplementing with that non-GMO quality feed, like, is that going to be all right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they'll do good. We kind of move them based on, I haven't run just a group of 4, so we kind of move them based on the impact that they're doing to the property, because that's what we're using them for. We're basically using them as a delicious little bulldozer. So when their clearing task is done, then we either move them or process them. So that's going to be what you want to keep an eye on. Pigs are smart enough that they will eventually, it won't take them very long, but they will synchronize and they will agree on, hey, over there's the bathroom. That's where everybody goes to relieve themselves. So you got to be cautious of having anything in one spot too long. You can run into a parasite problem, but by moving them and feeding them good feed, you're not going to have any problems. So depending on the size of paddock that you put out there, if you have a half-acre paddock, if you wanted to move them, you could probably move them every 4 or 5 weeks and something to that effect, and they'd be just fine. But we base it on the impact that we're getting on the paddock because we have a pretty good idea of what we want it to look like. So if we decide to go in there and sow something that's going to come back, whether we scatter some grass seed or something like that, we know about what we want it to be torn up, to be disturbed. Torn up sounds like a destructive process, but they're going in and rooting things up that when we start, you can't walk through there. And these pigs are perfect for that.
With that breed, they're typically, like, they're not going super high up on any vegetation, right? They're pretty much going what they can see eye level and below, right?
Yeah, but you'll find that if you've got little elm trees and whatnot, they'll root those up or they'll peel the bark off of them. So they're pretty good about finding things. And pigs are fun because even when they're full, they're still curious. So they might go chew on a cedar tree. They're not hungry, but they might go chew on a cedar tree and just get some of the bark and some of the branches off of it. They're constantly dragging rose bushes out of the ground, and
you have a lot of poke selling at your place?
We do, but not in the woods. So what we have grows more on the edges of the pastures, and we primarily keep those pigs in the woods.
Would there be any cause for concern if they were in areas that had poke selling? I know the seeds are poisonous to humans, but I don't know about what it does to pigs, if anything.
Not that I'm aware of. It's the fact that you said that where they're at right now, there's some dead oak plants, and they've been in that spot probably 4 weeks right now, and I haven't seen any
No issues.
effects. No,
Okay.
no, pigs are actually people don't give them enough credit for being intelligent enough. I think they're pretty selective about what they eat and what they don't eat. So we haven't had any digestive issues. You know what I mean? As far as somebody eating something that they hadn't.
How did the go into the breeding operation with pigs? Was that a pretty smooth process, or is that all kinds of headache?
Well, that's basically a separate entity, separate operation, but we're on the cusp of it. We haven't actually started breeding anything because what we don't want to do is farrow in the dead of winter. You know, right now, if we bred right now, we'd be farrowing. We'd be looking at February farrowing, and I just don't want to mess with that because our pigs are going to be born outdoors. We're not going to bring them in, and
Yeah.
they'll have a little farrowing pen, but it's going to be outdoors to the elements. They're not going to be treated like a show pig. If we breed a pig that can thrive in our environment, then that's what we want. But if we bring something in that can't thrive there, then they're going to struggle the whole time, and they're just going to be a headache for us. So we are going to breed them outside, and we want to make sure that we're cooperating with nature. And when we start farrowing,
As far as like, because we'll get these feeder pigs next week.
Mhm.
They'll be, I don't know, probably 70 pounds or so. Going through the winter with them, is there any? If I'm have a little shelter built for them, that's sufficient, right? Some hay and a little shelter. That's all they need, really.
Yeah, the biggest thing is if they can get in, if it's going to be cold and windy, if they can get in and get somewhere to stay dry and stay out of the direct wind. You know, if you got trees and brush and down in the holler, they'll stay in there and they'll stay pretty warm. You might notice it might take a little bit more feed to finish one this time of year, but there's two schools of thoughts on that. It also finishes a little bit slower, so you end up with some people prefer the meat that's finished in the fall because or through the winter because it's not quite as fatty. They're not growing quite as fast because they're using calories for heat consumption. So, you know, there's two schools of thoughts on it. I haven't finished any pigs in the winter because I try and run them in groups so we can be done. That way I don't have to worry about frozen waters and that type of thing. But the ones our breeding stock we're going to keep through the winter this year, obviously. So that's our plan is to just throw a hay bale in there and they'll burrow in and I mean,
Do you have to worry so much about the water that they're drinking freezing, or are they pretty good about keeping that busted up?
it just depends on your source. So we've got waters with floats on them, and if it's not flowing, it will freeze. This little cold snap we had a couple weeks ago, it got cold enough that those waters froze. They thawed out during the day, but um, all things considered, I think when it gets real cold, I'm probably going to abandon those automatic waters and just maybe bring 5-gallon bucket to them and dump it in their tote. And if they're thirsty, they'll get a drink. If it freezes before that evening when I make evening rounds, then they'll have to wait till the evening to get a drink.
Yeah,
I just,
that works. That works.
yeah.
And then with your steers, so you've got you're slaughtering those this coming year,
Yeah, in the spring.
in spring. How old will they be at that point?
About 30 months.
30 months.
So to finish a beef animal, a ruminant beef, I say, you need to plan on about 30 months. If grass-fed stuff does finish slower than grain-fed stuff, obviously, I believe it's healthier. And I don't even necessarily care to use the term grass-fed. I think that's it's an easy phrase that people understand, but unless you want to dig in, it can mean a lot of different things.
Technically, every one of them's grass fed.
Yeah, at some point. So even grass finished is a different term to me because what we've learned through people that are again much smarter than us. There's a guy named Dr. Alan Williams that has been at this for years, and he talks about the absolute necessity for a ruminant animal to be able to have a diverse diet. And if you've just got them on a pasture that's, for instance, has been sprayed and that's all they've got is grass, excuse me, they won't finish like they typically would because they're not getting any diversity. And that's the beauty of a ruminant animal is they can balance their own diet through the selection of what might be available in the pasture, be it green grass, be it forbs. Some people call them weeds. If an animal will eat it, I don't tend to call it a weed. I think it serves a purpose. You know, there's things that certain times of the year our animals will eat. Around here, we get the thistles that you see.
Mhm.
They get the big purple pretty flower on them, but most people hate them. I don't spray anything in my pastures. My steers will go around, they'll eat that seed head.
Mhm.
So, obviously there's a purpose. They know that that's something in there is what they need. So we choose to use the phrase forage finished because that's what we're truly wanting to finish our animals on is what we have naturally available. And I do buy some hay. I don't have the ability yet to stockpile enough grass to graze all winter, but the hay that I bring in, I'm very selective in it. I don't buy any hay that's been commercially fertilized, and I don't buy any hay that's had any spray on it, a weed spray, graze on, things like that. I want a naturally occurring forage, and that's what my animals get, and they seem to do well on it.
Thank you for watching this episode of The Savage Clip. If you want to see the full-blown deep dive, check out the full episode here, and I'll see you there.